Welcome to Searching the Scriptures. Our Bible teacher will be Gunther von Harringa Sr. In this series of studies, we will be focusing on the book of Judges. So without further ado, let's look into God's Word, the Bible.
Good evening and welcome to Searching the Scriptures. This is going to be Judges chapter 4, part 9, and today's date is May 12th, 2017. I'll read from Judges 4 through 7. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time. And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment. And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abinoam, out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, Hath not Jehovah God of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali and of the children of Zebulun? And I will draw unto thee to the river Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. Deborah explains to Barak what her battle plan is in verse 7. And I will draw unto thee to the river Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. Besides here in verse 7, the term Kishon, which is Strong's number 7028, appears in the following four passages. In Judges 4:13, we learn that Deborah, again, she typifies the Word of God. This plan, which of course that she is telling Barak about, was orchestrated by God and was entirely successful. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles unto the river of Kishon. Now in Judges 5:21, and we're jumping ahead to the next chapter, but only to make the point that it has to do, this chapter, Judges 5, with a victory song, similar to what we read in Exodus 15 about the song of Moses. But here it's a song that Barak and Deborah sang, in which the river is mentioned twice, here in verse 21. The river of Kishon swept them away, that ancient river, the river Kishon. O my soul, thou hast trodden down strength. Then if we go to verse 9 of Psalm 83, 1-18, we find another reference to Kishon. Here it's spelt a little differently. It's Kishon without the H. And this psalm is a historical parable in its own right regarding God's victory over his enemies. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, Ashur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot. Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zebah, and as Zalmunna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Jehovah. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the Most High over all the earth. Now, I'd like to consider one last account having to do with this river Kishon, and it's found in verse 40 of 1 Kings 18, 17 to 46. And this chapter is a very dramatic one. It's the confrontation between Elijah, the one true prophet of God, and the hundreds of false prophets of Baal. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, Art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of Jehovah, and thou hast followed Baalim. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If Jehovah be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of Jehovah, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of Jehovah. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, Choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many. And call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth, and must be awaked. And they cried aloud, and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of Jehovah that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of Jehovah came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Jehovah, and he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran round about the altar. And he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Jehovah God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Jehovah, hear me, that this people may know that thou art Jehovah God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of Jehovah fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, Jehovah, he is the God. Jehovah, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and slew them there. And Elijah said unto Ahab, Get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Carmel. And he cast himself down upon the earth, and put his face between his knees, and said to his servant, Go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked, and said, There is nothing. And he said, Go again 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, Behold, there ariseth a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, Go up, say unto Ahab, Prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heaven was black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. And the hand of Jehovah was on Elijah. And he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Before moving ahead in our study, I do want to leave you with one thought regarding Kishon, which is noteworthy. The root word for Kishon is 6983, and it is only found in one passage, in which it is rendered as and lay a snare or a trap, in verse 21 of Isaiah 29, 20-21, which is exactly what happened with regards to Eglon that we saw in Judges 3, and which will occur again with Sisera as we continue on in this chapter. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Now, all of these foregoing accounts have one main thread in common, that of God's victory over his enemies, typified by the non-elect in the kingdom of Satan and represented by Sisera or these other heathen nations. Oftentimes, and in spite of overwhelming odds, as you know, God's army is victorious because the battle belongs to the Lord. As David, under divine inspiration, triumphantly announced to Goliath in 1 Samuel 17, starting in verse 45 and down to verse 47. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of Jehovah of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will Jehovah deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that Jehovah saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is Jehovah's, and he will give you into our hands. Other verses also underscore God's strength and might in winning the battle for his people, demonstrating his complete sovereignty and unfathomable power, as these next passages maintain. Exodus 14:13 recounts the miraculous deliverance at the Red Sea from the greatest army on earth at that time, which was no match for the living God of the Bible. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Jehovah, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians, whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Likewise, 2 Chronicles 20:17 makes this glorious affirmation. Ye shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of Jehovah with you. O Judah and Jerusalem, fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for Jehovah will be with you. Psalm 147, 10 through 11 also asserts, He delighteth not in the strength of the horse. He taketh no pleasure. He taketh not pleasure in the legs of a man. Jehovah taketh pleasure in them that fear him, in those that hope in his mercy. We can go to 2 Kings 19:35, which depicts the death of 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in one night by Jehovah, one fateful night, I should add, underscoring God's amazing ability and prowess as the man of war that he is. And it came to pass that night that the angel of Jehovah went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. All right, let's proceed to examine the word and his multitude. Sisera and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And his multitude is Strong's number 1995 in the phrase that I just quoted, Sisera and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. As we have already considered the other words in this verse in some of our previous studies. Keep in mind that the hand represents one's will. And Sisera is going to be delivered or given into Barak's and Deborah's hands, even though, as we shall see, the honor of killing him will be reserved for a woman by the name of Jael, who actually represents the elect. Psalm 149, 5 through 9, for example, reinforces the truth that God, in conjunction with his people, share in the judgment process, even as they did during the day of salvation, when God used his people as his ambassadors to penetrate the world with the gospel, of course, during the church age, and then after the church age, through individuals and organizations that were not affiliated with the churches and denominations, leading up to this undoubtedly the greatest campaign to ever get the gospel into the world, right up until Judgment Day, which began on May 21, 2011. Let's look at Psalm 149, verses 5 through 9. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains, and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye Jehovah. The term "and his multitude," Strong's number 1995, occurs 83 times in the following ways: multitude 62 times, noise 4 times, tumult 4 times, abundance 3 times, many 3 times, store twice, and once as company, multiplied, riches, rumbling, and sounding. And we'll just look at a couple illustrations of these, and then we'll have to close today's lesson. If we go to Genesis 17, 4 and 5, it appears as the term "of many" in this wonderful promise that God made to Abraham, which is also the meaning of his name. As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. Now, on the other hand, there's another very moving account of David in 2 Samuel 18, 28 to 33. And in this account, David is hearing the very sad news of Absalom's death, which he tried to prevent. And here this term is translated as tumult in verse 29. Again, this is 2 Samuel 18, 28 to 33. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, All is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Blessed be Jehovah thy God, which hath delivered up the men that lifted up their hand against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, When Joab sent the king's servant and me, thy servant, I saw a great tumult. That's our word, 1995. But I knew not what it was. And the king said unto him, Turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And behold, Cushi came, And Cushi said, Tidings, my lord the king, for Jehovah hath avenged thee this day of all them that rose up against thee. And the king said unto Cushi, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushi answered, The enemies of my lord the king, and all that rise against thee to do thee hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son. We're going to stop today's lesson here, and Lord willing, we'll pick up this account in Judges 4 next time.
Thank you for joining us today for Searching the Scriptures. Until next time, to God be the glory.